Warframe community. Today we've got another video, and this one's specifically aimed at giving general tips to beginners. Now this video is probably going to be a little bit all over the place, but I'm going to try and keep it as coherent as possible and give out tips on a broad range of topics about Warframe. I'm also going to try and keep it pretty concise because when you're starting playing a new game, people don't want to watch a super long video with a ton of information. With that in mind, we're going to get right into it. The first tip you're going to hear from myself and echoed by almost anybody in the Warframe community is to save your starting platinum for weapon slots and Warframe slots. Platinum is the Warframe paid currency, so aside from the starting platinum you get, the only way to get more platinum is either to buy it yourself or to trade with other players for it. And as a new player, you're probably not going to have anything of value that you're going to be able to trade for more platinum. So as a starting player, that initial bit of platinum is all you get. The reason it's so important to spend on Warframe and weapon slots is that is the only way to get more Warframe and weapon slots. Which, if you're limited on those, it's going to kind of hinder your gameplay a little bit. So you want to get as many of those as you can possibly afford. Changing gears, another thing I want to throw out there is that your mastery rank, which is essentially your account level, is not the same as the level of your weapons or Warframes. Weapons and Warframes all have individual levels, and they go from 0 to 30. All of the Warframes and weapons you leveled combined basically is what determines your mastery rank. These also don't correlate with the levels you'll see on missions. You'll see a number blank through blank. That's going to be the levels of enemies that spawn in that mission, which is not related. So you can't say, I have a level 18 weapon so I can kill level 18 enemies. It doesn't work that way. The enemy level is pretty much totally independent, and you'll just kind of get used to figuring out what enemies you can kill as you play the game more. On that note, leveling up your weapons doesn't actually increase their stats at all, and leveling frames is going to unlock their powers and only increase the stats by a little bit. The way to get stronger gear is by putting mods on your weapons and warframes. So basically leveling the gear is only necessary because it gives you more space to put more mods on there. The amount of endo you put in the mods is going to increase their strength significantly, so the more endo you put into a mod, the stronger it's going to be. And it's more important to have higher ranked mods than have a bunch of lower ranked mods. Another question that's also going to be related to modding, I get a lot of questions on what Forma are and how they work. It's not really an early game thing, but I'll explain it now because it makes a difference later in the game, so it kind of gives you an idea of what you're working towards. Basically what Forma do is they allow you to add polarities to slots in your weapons and warframes, which are going to decrease the cost of putting mods in those slots. If you look at a mod, there's a number and a kind of symbol up near the top right, and if you match that to a polarity you have in a slot on your weapon, it only costs half the amount of points rounded up to put that mod on the weapon. Now if they're different symbols, it's going to be an extra 25%, so you definitely have to match the symbols and have matching polarities there. Now essentially what this is going to allow you to do, since the mods will effectively cost less, you can fit more mods on your weapons, which is going to make them even more powerful. Because of how this works, when you put a Forma into a weapon, you get to choose a polarity. It's going to put it back to level 0, and you're going to have to level that weapon or frame back to 30 again. Because of the Forma system, I'm going to recommend that you largely ignore tier lists you see with this game. This isn't a game where you can just go online and Google what is the best weapon or the best frame and work towards that. Because if you put enough effort and Forma into something, you can make anything in this game viable. So I would say just find a weapon or a frame that you like using because of the way it feels, you just like the way it handles, and then worry about making it good later because you can make anything useful. The next thing I'd like to do is give you a short list of mods that you should work towards leveling up, putting endo into. You can either take my word for it or do your own research, but to actually give an in-depth breakdown and explanation should be an entirely separate video. So for primaries, you're going to want to look at Serration, Split Chamber, and Shred. Secondaries, you're going to want Hornet Strike, Lethal Torrent, and Barrel Diffusion. Melee weapons, you're going to want any stance that matches the polarity of your weapon. Pressure Point, Fury, and Reach. On frames, you're going to want Vitality, Redirection, Streamline, Vigor, Intensify, Continuity, Stretch. And then for the auras, you're going to look at Corrosive Projection, Steel Charge, Energy Siphon, and Rejuvenation. And it's also worth noting that for the auras, they can only be obtained through alerts. So if you see an alert for any of those auras, definitely do it if you are able to do so. Starting on a new topic, I frequently get asked a good way to farm credits. The method I personally like to do is to run any dark sector mission. Those are found on most planets. There's usually 2 of them. I usually pick defense, but any of them work. I just recommend that you go into the mission and then you extract as soon as possible, because that's going to net you the most credits for your time. Another unrelated tip is I recommend that you always do alerts or invasions you see that either reward you with a Nitane extract, an Orokin reactor, or an Orokin catalyst. Note that those are different than Orokin cells. Orokin cells are good too, but less rare. The reason I'm saying this is because those first 3 are really rare resources that for the most part can only be obtained through alerts. So if you see those pop up, that's going to be the only way to get those, and you're going to want a lot of them in the future, so definitely start grabbing as many as you possibly can. A piece of advice I'm going to give you just on things to work on at the beginning of the game is to basically just unlock the star chart, which just means the planets. Because when you play a mission, when you beat it, you're going to unlock all adjacent missions. So basically just keep doing that as many times in a row as you can to unlock as many different places as you can. This is important for 2 reasons. 1, it's going to give you mastery XP. But 2, and probably more importantly, it gives you the potential to access those locations so that when alerts or missions pop up on those locations, you'll be able to do it and grab those things I talked about earlier. If an alert pops up on a location that you can't get to, then you're basically just out of luck unless you can get a higher level player to take you to that mission, basically. It's also going to help you get resources that you might need later in the game. And if you need a resource but don't have the planet that resource drops from, then you're going to either have to do all the missions to get over there just to do that resource, or you're just out of luck. The last piece of general advice I'm going to give you is to hold on to pretty much anything you have until you are absolutely sure you won't need it. Because as a new player, I definitely made the mistake of selling things or ditching things that I actually had to go back and get later, which is a huge pain in some cases. The only exception I'm going to say to that is if you've leveled a weapon or a frame all the way to 30, definitely don't do it before you level it to 30, and you need to sell it to free up more weapon or warframe slots, then that's a tough choice you got to make, so that one's up to you. Hopefully you find some of the tips that I just gave you useful. Like I said, the purpose here was basically just to get out some basic tips to people new to the game, because they're things they may not know, and they're things that will definitely make your life easier if you do know them. If you have any feedback, tips, or questions on anything I just said, definitely let me know in the comments. If you know anybody else that's starting Warframe, feel free to give them the link to this video. Hopefully we can help them out too. Check the description of this video for the link to my Twitch. I've been streaming pretty frequently, and when I stream, I basically just go around helping new players get resources, missions, things they need to do, as well as answer questions and just give out general knowledge in the chat. So my stream is directly aimed at helping newer players. Like I said, hopefully this helped some of you guys out, and until next time, take care everybody.